Hello and welcome to another episode of Twice as Lively with Ken Heckenlively. The title of this episode is The Fauci Diary, like Eichmann in Jerusalem. For those of you who don't know who Adolf Eichmann was, he was one of the key creators of the Holocaust in World War II. He was captured in approximately 1961 in South America by Israeli special forces, brought back to Jerusalem, tried, and hung by the neck. Yes, I am comparing Dr. Anthony Fauci to Adolf Eichmann, one of the creators of the Holocaust in World War II. Although I would have to say that Anthony Fauci is likely a bigger criminal than Adolf Eichmann, because Eichmann's Holocaust only killed 6 million people, whereas Fauci's Holocaust killed at least 17 million people. And that's just COVID-19. We're not talking about HIV/AIDS. We're not talking about chronic fatigue syndrome. We're not talking about autism. So, in a fair warning to you, I'm likely to use very colorful language because when I talk about a mass murderer, especially a mass murderer who's hiding behind the veneer of science, I'm likely to use colorful language. So if that offends you, I suggest you not watch this broadcast, or perhaps you simply put it on mute and do the closed captioning. But before we get there, let us do our simultaneous sip. As always, I have some wonderful Pete's coffee, a cafe Americano with a little bit of milk and some honey, because we always need a little bit of sugar with our caffeine. So get your adult beverage together. It is 3:51 on the West Coast. So that means if you're on the East Coast, it would be socially appropriate if you were toasting with an adult beverage with alcohol. So here we go. That simultaneous sip. So wonderful, so delicious. And in case my voice gets a little bit raw, because I'm likely to do a lot of yelling today, well, I've got my coffee to soothe my throat. Okay. You may know that Senator Rand Paul has been doing an amazing job going after Anthony Fauci. And I'd like to say something about those who choose to do evil. Here's the problem with those who choose to do evil. There are those of us who will go after them, and we will make it our life's mission to bring them to justice. So Anthony Fauci, as I understand, is probably around 81 or 82 years old. I am still a relatively spry 63 years old, and time is on my side. I will not give up the pursuit of justice for Anthony Fauci. And I have no problem saying that I believe that Anthony Fauci should be put before an international tribunal. I believe that he should be given all due legal representation. But it is my legal opinion that he is guilty as hell and should be hung from the neck until dead. Don't misinterpret that, YouTube. I'm not saying that anybody should take vigilante justice against him. I'm saying they need to arrest him. They need to try him. And then when he is convicted of at least 17 million deaths, that he be hung by the neck. I have no problem with that. I will say that in any venue in which you put me, and I am happy to debate that belief with anybody. But before I get to why I believe that so strongly, let's go to the evidence, shall we? Yes. On the Senate website today, you can read excerpts from Dr. Fauci's personal diary. Now, one of the other wonderfully persistent critics of Anthony Fauci has been Robert F. Kennedy Jr., currently serving as Trump's Secretary of Health and Human Services, and if I may be permitted a personal note, knocking it out of the park. Okay? So, Robert Kennedy, you're doing a great job. Thanks for going after Fauci. Thank you, Robert Kennedy, for always having the backs of autism parents like me. I know that you have not forgotten us. I know that you work every day in order to bring some measure of hope to parents like us who have, yes, vaccine injured children. Yes, I have a vaccine injured daughter. Yes, I do. She has autism and seizures as a result of her vaccines. Now, YouTube, you can go onto the website for the various vaccines, and you can note that they list as possible side effects autism and seizures. Did I mention my daughter has autism and seizures, which is a reported side effect of her vaccines? That is what we believe. However, it's not something I can litigate in court because the courts are closed to parents like me who claim their children are vaccine injured. That's right. We can't sue the pharmaceutical companies who made the goddamn vaccines, and at the same time, those motherfucking vaccine companies can go out to the public and say they're safe and effective. What motherfucking product can be called safe and effective? And you can't even sue the motherfucking makers of that product. I don't know of any other motherfucking product on the market that has complete legal immunity, especially not one given to children. The motherfuckers who put together this scheme where parents can't sue pharmaceutical makers for damage to their children is truly demonic. Okay, let's go to the Fauci diaries. Oh, and did you know that Dr. Fauci was also one of the architects of this scheme, which gave pharmaceutical makers complete legal immunity from being sued for harm or death caused by their products? So let's just stick with COVID for the moment, shall we? So, as I said, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., his wonderful book about Fauci detailed many of Fauci's crimes. So it's probably not surprising that Robert F. Kennedy's organization, Children's Health Defense, and their publication, The Defender, details some of Fauci's lies about COVID. Let's start with lie number one. Fauci ruled out Wuhan wet market as the outbreak's origin. Before most of the world would know about COVID-19, one of the earliest entries raises questions about the timeline surrounding the first known case. With 1,400 cases and 42 recorded deaths, Fauci wrote on January 26, 2020, that the epidemiological and genomic information suggested infections occurred before the outbreak was linked publicly to Wuhan's seafood market. Fauci said, quote, first infection was in early December and was not connected to the market. Do you guys have memories? And remember that they kept saying it was the motherfucking wet market. No, it was not the motherfucking Hunan wet market. It was something else. It was the goddamn motherfucking Wuhan Institute of Virology. From Fauci's own diary, quote, now we know the market was not the source, it was the amplifier, he added. Having said that, somewhere the virus jumped from animals to human. How about at the motherfucking Wuhan Institute of Virology? It killed 17 million fucking people around the world, and we still don't have the answer to it. And nice people are telling people like me to forget about the 17 million fucking people who were killed by this virus. I will not forget about those people who were killed by the virus. The entry challenged the early focus on the seafood market as the origin point of the outbreak and suggested that the virus may have been circulating before cases connected to the market were identified. Yes, it didn't come from the Wuhan seafood market. It came from the Wuhan Institute of Virology. And in January of 2020, that's what Fauci himself was saying. Did he say that to you, to me, in the public? No, he didn't. He fucking lied. People died. He should hang. Number two, scientists privately raised the possibility of lab involvement. A consequential January 31, 2020 diary describes a conversation with Jeremy Farrar, then director of the Wellcome Trust, following discussions among scientists Christian Anderson, Eddie Holmes, Bob Gary, about a newly released SARS-CoV-2 genome sequence. According to Fauci's notes, the scientists discussed features of the virus that they believed were unusual and warranted additional scrutiny. The features included the furin cleavage site, which helps the virus infect cells. Quote, they bring up the possibility that they could have been deliberately inserted and either accidentally released or deliberately released by a crazy person in the lab, Fauci wrote. Okay, so for a little bit of basic science, the virus has to have certain characteristics to differentiate it from a bat coronavirus to a virus that can infect human beings. That differentiation is something known as a furin cleavage site. So it has to have that sequence or else it can't infect human beings. The only way that virus gets that sequence is it was put into it in a lab. So the scientists who are telling you it didn't come from the Wuhan Institute of Virology, behind the scenes are saying, hey, it looks like it did. These guys are motherfuckers. They played God. They caused a pandemic, and they deserve to hang by the neck until dead. According to the scientists disagreed on the likelihood of laboratory origin, but agreed the issue warranted further investigation. Okay. What's next? Okay. Oh, so if you think we're talking about Saint Fauci, and for those of you who are like, no, we just talked about him as a really good scientist, not as a secular saint. Well, let me show you this. Just for fun, to show how motherfucking stupid people can be, I could buy this on Amazon. Notice, this is a devotional candle with Anthony Fauci on it. That's right, motherfucking Anthony Fauci, murderer of at least 17 million people. Millions of a lot of these were sold. So people are stupid. This man is not a saint. This man is a murderer. He's killed a lot more than just with COVID. If you like your gay people, well, he killed a lot of gay people. If you like women, well, he's damaged a lot of women because of chronic fatigue syndrome, how he shut down that investigation. If you like children, well, he's devastated an entire generation with autism and other neurological problems, as well as a host of other health problems, brain cancers, and allergies. That's right. I'm going to say it. Vaccines are the single worst scientific invention in history. Future generations will condemn us for what we did with the vaccine schedule. Okay, back to Fauci from his own diaries. Now remember, let's just say I'm totally wrong with this. Let's just say Fauci is a dedicated scientist and he's upset that people are dying from this virus. Well, why the hell then, in his diary, is he writing again and again, I'm the most famous and talked about person in the country? That's right, you motherfucker. I'm going to talk about you. I'm going to talk about you until I'm fucking dead, okay? And I'm going to make sure your name is as black as the Nazis who perpetrated the Holocaust. That's what's going to happen to you. A surprising recurring theme throughout the diaries is Fauci's growing awareness of his own public profile during intense months of the pandemic. On April 7th, 2020, his first entry, merely weeks after states began implementing mandatory shutdowns in New York and Ohio, refers to media coverage he's featured in. Press still hot and heavy about me, he wrote. Multiple stories per day directly or indirectly involving me. A few weeks later, on May 21st, Fauci mentions a very flattering front-page Washington Post article, adding, quote, my national and international fame is explosive and really unimaginable. Quote, I am the most famous and talked about person in the country and one of the most recognizable people in the world, he continued. Countless profiles on me in multiple media. I cannot even read all the things that are written about me since I am so busy. Seriously, POTUS seems to be enamored of me, even though I am taking the spotlight away from him. You goddamn mass murderer. You know what you did with this risky gain of function research, and then you tried to fucking cover it up. And then what you fucking tried to do is bask in the glory. You're like the arsonist who sets the fire and then runs to his job as a volunteer fireman and tries to get credit for being the hero. Anthony Fauci, you are one of the most evil people in all of human history, and I am dedicating my life to making sure that is the thing people remember about you. Next thing about Fauci, he accuses Trump of getting out of control. Remember, this is the motherfucker who greenlit gain of function research at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, and then he accuses Trump of getting out of control. Fauci is the one who's responsible for the death of at least 17 million people with COVID, not Donald Trump. On May 22nd, 2020, Fauci wrote, Trump getting out of control and pushing to open up the country and get the economy back before Election Day. He is desperate. This is all about re-election. How about it's all about gain of function research, you motherfucker, and killing 17 million people around the globe? How about that? How about you put that in your diary? How about that is the epitaph? How about that is what we put on your gravestone. Here lies Anthony Fauci, one of the greatest mass murderers in all of human history. On July 2nd, he added, quote, I am concerned that we might be on exponential increase as we enter into the 4th of July weekend. POTUS and his people have essentially dropped out and do not even recognize that an outbreak is going on. They're denying all requests to me to appear on any major TV program. You motherfucker, you created this goddamn virus that killed 17 million people around the globe, and you're complaining that you can't get on TV and talk about your amazing efforts to stop it? God, you deserve to burn in hell, Anthony Fauci. Number 5. Scientists questioned deleted NIH data records. So, if you're in science, the cardinal sin, the sin which cannot be forgiven, is to destroy data. Science is about telling the truth in all its complexity. If you destroy records of your experiment, you are committing a sin against truth, an unforgivable sin against truth. It's not science if you lie. Science should have unquestioned integrity. The fact that Anthony Fauci was part and parcel of getting rid of embarrassing data means that we should strip him of the title of a scientist for all time. So let's go over some of the things that he had said. Paul had previously called on Fauci to answer questions surrounding deleted COVID-19 files. Do any of you understand what a big deal this is? In science, the facts are the facts. You don't delete the data. You don't cover up information. On June 18th, 2021, Fauci's diary recorded an important email from Jesse Bloom, PhD, an associate professor at the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Center and an investigator with the Howard Hughes Medical Institute regarding deleted early SARS-CoV-2 genetic sequences from the National Institutes of Health Sequence Read Archive. Bloom wrote to Fauci and other officials about missing early Wuhan SARS-CoV-2 data. Quote, I identified a data set of early Wuhan SARS-CoV-2 sequence that has been deleted from the NIH's Sequence Read Archive, Bloom wrote. I was able to recover the deleted files from the Google Cloud and analyze the sequence. Bloom said he had submitted a preprint analyzing the recovered data and wanted to alert NIH officials because questions surrounding the origins and early spread of COVID-19 had become a major scientific and public issue. So, what does that mean? Well, when you're doing an investigation on a virus that you haven't seen before, you need those sequences. It's like going to a murder scene. Like, let's say in the Charlie Kirk assassination, people might think it's suspicious if a couple days later you dug up the very ground on which Charlie Kirk was assassinated and put concrete over it. Not that I'm saying that happened, wink, wink, but it raises some questions. So why were the early COVID-19 sequences deleted? Because any investigator of the slightest intelligence could look at those early sequences, compare them to previously published sequences by the Wuhan Institute of Virology and U.S. sources out of North Carolina under Dr. Ralph Barrick, I'm guessing they would find a remarkable similarity between the two of them. Okay, so what else? Scientists are supposed to be able to talk with other scientists about the information. But one of the things you may not know, and this is covered in my book, Presidential Takedown, written with senior pandemic advisor, Dr. Paul Alexander, who, despite being right, still can't find a job, because that's what happens when you say the wrong thing in science. But people like Fauci, who kills 17 million people and lie about it, seemingly are still getting their pension. And did I mention that Fauci has the highest pension of any federal worker because he's been around for such a motherfucking long time? So you're supposed to be able to talk to the other scientists. Well, apparently Dr. Robert Redfield, who is head of the CDC, was one of the rebels who didn't believe in what Fauci was saying and would tell him so. So, let's see, what do we got here? Fauci wrote that CDC officials were upset that his assessment that the flu season was on track to be as severe as in 2017 and 2018 and 2000. Okay, that's not really good. Okay. Here's the important thing. So just to let you know, this is confirmation of what I wrote in Presidential Takedown. As the pandemic took shape, Fauci mentioned disagreement with CDC members like then Dr. Robert Redfield surrounding COVID-19 containment and mitigation tactics. Quote, Bob Redfield does not come across very well, he wrote. He takes forever to say something, it is usually wondering. This drives the White House and Health and Human Service comms people crazy, and so they are putting me out on all the requests. The CDC did not respond to requests for comments. Okay, so CDC Director Robert Redfield did not stand up in public as he should have done during COVID. So I've got a lot of criticism for former CDC Director Bob Redfield. However, in the years since that, he has come out, he has had conversations with Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and he is giving the good guys, and I'm sure that he's working closely with Senator Rand Paul on unraveling the lies of COVID. All of that is wonderful. I'm happy that Dr. Bob Redfield finally grew a motherfucking spine and is doing his job to help people. But it sure would have been nice, Bob, to have your help during COVID. If you had gone rogue, if you had been kicked out, you probably could have saved a lot of lives. So happy you kept your pension, Bob. Sorry that you also probably are responsible for a lot of deaths of people. Hope that doesn't bother you too much in retirement. Okay, let's go to a couple other ones. Oh, Breitbart, who I love. Breitbart is awesome. So here's their article. Fauci diary shows he lied to the public about coronavirus fatality rate. Do you know what a big deal it is when a scientist lies about the data? I think that if a scientist ever lies about the data, they should have all of their degrees stripped from them. They should have their pension taken away, and they should be forced to work for the remaining rest of their miserable lives as a garbage man. Okay? No offense to Garbage Man. Garbage Men are some great people. People like Fauci could learn a lot from Garbage Men. So let's talk about what Fauci lied about. In a February 2020 entry, Fauci recorded the number of cases as well as his many media appearances. He also surmised that the mortality rate of the virus was, quote, more like 0.2% to 0.3% rather than 2%. Quote, Tom Frieden called me this AM and we discussed various aspects of the outbreak. He and I are on the same page and thinking that this is acting like a bad influenza in its transmissibility and that the denominator is much greater than 34,867, making the case fatality rate more like 0.2 to 0.3% rather than 2%. However, this is not what Fauci was saying publicly around that time. So let me put this in clear language for you. A virus that has a 0.2 to 0.3% fatality rate is not a virus for which you shut down the world economy and force kids to take classes from home for 2 motherfucking years. Now, if they had told the truth about this virus, what does that mean? That means children would not have lost years of education. Many businesses, probably a larger amount of Black and minority-owned businesses, would not have gone under. And the people who had problems because they were locked in their houses, because we know that when people lose their jobs, the suicide rate goes up. Did the suicide rate and mental health problems go up dramatically during COVID? Yes, they did, because people need to get out into the world. So how much did Fauci lie about the fatality rate? Well, if you're saying that the real rate is 0.2 to 0.3%, but you're saying it's 2%, that's a tenfold lie. Fauci told all of us a tenfold lie. Now, since I'd been going after Fauci since my 2014 book, Plague, with Dr. Judy Mikovits, I never believed the motherfucker to begin with. So I went through the entire pandemic not believing a single thing that Fauci did. Unfortunately, that's because I'd seen the damage that he caused. I know it took a lot of you a bit more time to realize what a liar Fauci was, but now he stands revealed before the world as a liar. And as long as I have breath in my body, I am dedicating myself to blackening the name of Anthony Fauci and making sure that he faces justice in this world. So there you have it. That's my thoughts for the day. I know these are deep and dark topics, but if you want to be a human being who cares about the death of 17 million of your fellow citizens of planet Earth, you need to get into this fight. If you don't care about the 17 million souls that we lost because a bunch of scientists wanted to play God in the lab and engage in dangerous gain-of-function research, I really don't know how you can live with yourself. This is something we need to talk about, people. And I ain't going to shut up about it. So there you have it. Stay frosty.